Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of Off the Shelf. I am Russell HD, and this week we found off the shelf was
12:45. Restate my assumptions. 1. Mathematics is the language of nature. 2. Everything around us can be represented and understood through numbers. 3. If you graph the numbers of any system, patterns emerge. Therefore, there are patterns everywhere in nature.
You only gave us part of the code. Now give us the rest of the code so we can set it right.
You are only a vessel from our God. You are carrying a delivery that was meant for us.
Pi, released in 1997, written and directed by Darren Aronofsky, who recently you might know of The Whale. This film was actually his first feature-length film, which, pretty cool to know. And, essentially, this film is about a mathematician who is driven insane by a singular 216-digit number. And the whole film kind of follows his dive into insanity, basically. His dive into madness of him trying to solve the number, what it means, what it is. And along the way, he is eventually being coerced or kind of trying to be persuaded by other sides, by some Jewish guys or some Wall Street people trying to get him to give them the number. Right, and the Wall Street people think the number is gonna break, that the number is the way to predict the stock market, to break the stock market basically. And the Jewish guys, they essentially believe that the number is the name of God, right? The key to the gates of Eden, basically, is what they think it is. And all the while, our main character, Max Cohen, is caught up in all this, and he is basically I believe he is the only one who knows the true meaning of the number. Or maybe he doesn't, and he just says he does, but he is the only one who knows the full number, right? And he doesn't say it. And, by the way, spoilers, if you want to watch this film, there will be a little bit of spoilers in this, but overall, by the end of the film, as I said, spoilers, by the end of the film, he is kind of relieved of the pressure of the whole numbers and solving and all that. And he's kind of at peace with himself at last by the end. And the whole ride he went on is over. But overall, I think the film is very interesting. And the whole mathematical side of it, the side with all the numbers. And although I'm not a huge fan of math myself, like the subject, I do think that this film truly made math interesting by telling the history of it. You know, the different mathematicians through history. You know, I just think if math class did that, it would get my attention a little bit more. Teach me about the guys that came up with this shit. It's interesting. It's cool to hear all these stories about all these mathematicians, these brilliant minds from the past. I think that's really interesting. And obviously the formulas themselves and all the equations and the numbers are still, this movie manages to make them interesting to coincide with the stories. Even then, if they're not telling a story, they're still interesting to learn about, because the way the characters are talking about it just makes it engaging, right? And not even, the math part isn't the only, obviously the math part is the central part of the film. The other very engaging part of the film is just the rest of it. You know, the whole, idea of this mathematician going crazy, because in reality, the other mathematicians probably did go crazy trying to figure this shit out, right? It's probably true. That mathematicians drove themselves insane trying to solve a certain equation, trying to solve a certain formula, a certain thing. And this film really just kind of, I think, you're in the head of Max, right? So there's so many scenes where he's having a headache, right? And he's banging at his head, and it's super close and claustrophobic. A lot of the shots in this film are very close and claustrophobic to add to the intensity, the suspense, the uncomfortable aspect of the film. to make you uneasy, but when he's having a headache, the screen shakes and it's real close, and there's like a really loud, like kind of nails on a chalkboard type sound in the background, and it really, like, you know, makes you wince. But that's the point, right? It's supposed to emulate a headache. And honestly, I overall really did like a lot of the aspects of the film, and I think it is really, really well made, especially for a first film. This is really good. I mean, wouldn't expect any less from Darren Aronofsky, but really, really good overall, and I think that the story is really engaging, and I think also it's just really nice to look at. Like, the film is really, really beautiful, like, in my opinion, really pretty, because the black and white, I always like black and white. Authentic black and white film is always appreciated, love it. And I think the film really helps being black and white, because I think it just helps with the whole math aesthetic, like the whole aesthetic and the whole plot of, you know, the numbers. I think it really adds to it. I don't know how to explain it, but I really think it adds to the atmosphere. And overall, the film is just really suspenseful. You know, it's really, as I said earlier, it's really, like, uncomfortable. It's really uneasy. It's not necessarily a full-on, like a horror film, definitely not. But it is definitely, I'd say, a thriller for sure. And it, you know, really, like, makes you question things, you know. And I think it's really good at that. I think it's really good at building up suspense and getting you on the edge of your seat and, you know, making you uncomfortable. I think it's really, really good at doing that. And overall, I think the film was just enjoyable. And by the end of the film, I was satisfied. I definitely think that I got a lot of enjoyment out of the film. I think one more thing that I really, really liked about this film, or another thing that I really liked, was the soundtrack. Soundtrack was great. It was like a bunch of techno, electronic music, and it was great. Really, as I said, really, like, when there were, like, scenes where he was, like, you know, solving, or he was, like, typing on his computer and solving or, like, trying to put in the numbers and stuff, like, and there was that, like the drums and the, like, electronic sound of it. I think that really helped build, it was just really nice. The soundtrack was really cool. I really liked the soundtrack. Maybe I should try to look for it. Maybe I should listen to more of it. But, would I recommend this film? Would I recommend this film? I think I would. It's definitely not for everybody, but if the things that I've said about it, you know, the whole idea of, you know, math being the central, like, driving the plot, if you're okay with that, if, you know, if you can find this stuff interesting, if you can really get into the film, I definitely would recommend it, but again, it's not for everybody, but I really think you should give it a shot, and would recommend it. And I definitely enjoyed it, and that I would probably rate it about, like, a 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Really, really strong, and would definitely recommend it. And, yeah, I think I've said all I need to say. I think I've said my piece. So, guys, I hope you like this video. Share your friends, subscribe, turn notifications on, comment down below how much you liked it. And I've been Time HD. Signing off.